A man on a mission. I would be fine retiring if I could win it all. The boy TY, he's been such an accomplished player. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series Global Finals taking place here in Burbank, California. I'm Nathanius, joined to prep for this next match with two very excellent people. Someone new to the BlizzCon stage, as it were, for working with us. Zombie Grub, how are you today?
I feel fantastic. I look fantastic. I look great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to agree with me, but it's
Todd, Warcraft 3 legend, highest commentator for StarCraft on esports earnings. Do you agree with the statement made by Zombie Grub?
Yeah, absolutely. Very excited here for this matchup. This group is just unreal. You know, like we always talk about group of death, but I feel like all groups are really quite excellent. And I'm very excited because I've been hearing a lot of things backstage. I've gotten to speak with Snute at breakfast, and like it's made me even more eager to see what happens here in this matchup against TY.
I wanted to ask you specifically, you know, we looked at the Signature Series. TY talked about, you know, his struggle going into pro gaming, how it wasn't super accepted. You've been a pro gamer for a very long time. You know a lot about this. How is it overcoming that, you know, people look at you as like, okay, well, you play video games for a living. It's not a normal thing. This is something that impacts all the players here's lives.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like I consider myself like to be one of the guys, you know, that got into esports early, like in the heydays and stuff. And then I watched footage of TY, like still wearing diapers and like beating people at boudoir tournaments. I'm like, okay, like this guy is like next level. His dad actually encouraged him, which is a very rare thing, like in the world of esports and, you know, pro gaming. So I think it's great, you know, it's a great story altogether to see a guy, you know, that was pushed by his dad finally coming to the realization that, you know, he finally won those big tournaments recently. He's had a hell of a year. He's won over $330,000 so far this year. And if he wins BlizzCon here, it will be a $600,000 year for him, which is absolutely, he would be the earningest StarCraft player in one single year.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. We're going to take a look at the standings of the group and catch you guys up with everything. Of course, this will be our second match of the day. Special did defeat Stats in I'd say a nice upset, Zombie Grub, to start off our group today.
Yeah, it was certainly an upset. It was very strong. You know, I think Special like really improved, and like you're talking behind, you know, in the stage, and it just like he sometimes doesn't close, right? He actually closed so hard. That third game on Catalina was so nice, such a nail biter towards the end. But yeah, Special definitely deserved it. Stats did not look as strong defensively as we thought coming up to BlizzCon.
Yeah. Special did a really good job of holding it together. Of course, our next matchup is going to be Snute facing off against TY. Snute, I think a player that we all know and love. He was at some points considered the best foreigner. This year, he has been overshadowed by quite a few other players like Neeb, like a Laser, Nurchio, but he comes in and you guys were talking about it. We've all heard things backstage. How do we feel about this match going into it? They mentioned in the pre-show that Snute, with the less that you think he's going to win, the better chance he has.
Yeah, I think it's kind of how it is. Like a lot of people write him off because, you know, he hasn't been in the same shape as prior or in the past. But he's came back strong, definitely, in the last WCS circuit tournaments. And when I looked at the groups, I immediately knew, like, Snute only had one thing to focus on, and that was his versus Terran matchup. I spoke to him this morning, and he did tell me that that's what he did pretty much. Didn't focus as much on Protoss, focused a lot on Terran, having Special and TY in his group. And I really feel like that gives him a good chance. He seems confident as well, which from Snute is almost like a rarity.
Yeah. Snute, known for being a player that has, you know, has swings from time to time. Zombie Grub, does he have what it takes to go up against a guy like TY?
I think that he does. It's like a really interesting matchup, considering that they both have a lot of like similar strengths. I mean, late game TY is as good, but maybe even better than late game Snute, and that's an amazing late game player. But I think that, you know, he has like a lot of games to learn off of. TY was actually playing in online tournaments up until BlizzCon, basically, against really, really good Zergs who showed some weaknesses that I hope Snute's going to be able to capitalize on.
Yeah, Snute's a smart guy. We know that, Todd. He'll definitely have studied those
Absolutely,
thoughts.
And stylistically, it's also very interesting because they both can play the long game. You know, we've seen TY play with some mech and playing longer games, and Snute, he loves those. If you allow him to go up to, you know, 80 plus drones, take like as many bases as he can. He's gonna embrace those positions, and he's gonna love playing with swarm hosts, mixing different units. So I would love to see some of these games, but it could be quick as well if these players choose to play aggressively to try and punish the opponent, because they're both pretty greedy at times.
Right, exactly. They're both greedy, so there's a lot of punishment points. But then, you bringing up mech and swarm host, got to remember the StarCraft Kings, right, versus innovation. Like TOI can do some mech as well, and Snute can actually dismantle that, which has been a big problem for some Zergs. But Rogue, Dark, they're starting to lead the way, and Snute's like right behind them.
I like the points that both of you have brought up about both of these players being very strong and liking to lean towards these late games. TY, as a Terran player myself, he is such a cool guy to follow because he is one of the guys that mixes it up. I think that's a very unique thing about the Korean Terrans at this tournament. What do you like most about watching his play?
TY is just solid all around. Like the way that he drops all around the place. Like he has very refined builds as well. Like we saw some of his adaptation, I think, against Stats in Katowice. It was beautiful. That last game, like he realized that Stats was doing a lot of quick Colossus. He was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get a couple tanks and attack you. If Stats had been playing another style with like Adepts, he would have been really bad. So obviously it's a different matchup, but I really feel like TY, he can adapt on the fly very, very well. And if he picks up on something from Snute just from game one and starts adjusting, it's gonna be very dangerous for Snute, who I think is expecting some very specific things out of TY here in this matchup.
TY has some strong foundation, so it wouldn't be too surprising if TY just like stuck to what he does well, which is kind of everything. But at some of the first games that I watched of this guy in StarCraft 2, he was abusing the map. He was the first one to do like the tank drop somewhere, and he would abuse it. So I expect TY to have some type of abusive map, at least one of these games. That's just going to be like, oh, I had not seen you do that yet.
Yeah, I think TY is one of the players we could say probably bust us something like a Liberator range rush, depending on what map we get put on.
And Nathaniel's push, right?
Yeah, there's some cheeky mech, There's a reason why I'm a fan of the guy.
Yeah.
And Snute's actually talking to him earlier, like he mentioned already, like he thought of everything, the map veto included, as you should, and he said some interesting stuff. He said he was going to veto Acolyte despite it being a pretty good Zerg map, just because he wasn't as good on it as on some of the other maps, as well as Catalina. So very well planned out on like everything. TY though kind of makes me curious in the way that we kind of know what to expect from him. Like mech is possible, but does he bust out some more aggressive builds, which we've seen a lot of Korean players do at times in some of these important matches?
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Reapers.
Just it's going to be a great match. I expect like 2 out of 3 to be super macro games, and then one of them is going to be like they're going to get each other. Like one's going to be like a gotcha moment.
All right, well, we'll have to see if that gotcha moment comes up. We are ready to go into our second best of 3 of the day. You're watching the World Championship Series. It's time for TY versus Snute.
G'day guys, Maynard and In Control here for the next match of the WCS Global Playoffs, and I am hyped for this one, man. TvZ, my favorite matchup in the game, and TY and Snute, 2 of my favorite players in the whole game.
And like they broke it down on the couch, it's an excellent showcase of late game TvZ, which is not necessarily something you're guaranteed to see, but with these two guys, I would be shocked. Now, that being said, I was the guy that was like, Stats is totally going to win that first series. So who knows, man? Anything can happen here. It is BlizzCon round of 16 weekend, where we had a lot of upsets last year as well, if I remember. It started off pretty spicy there, too.
Yeah, I mean, we're just down the road from Hollywood, bit of that cinematic magic coming through here,
dramatic.
bleeding into the story. But, it does happen. Most people will be favoring TY in this match. I personally, I was with Todd speaking to Snute this morning as well, and even before that, I felt like Snute had if anyone had a chance against TY's playstyle in TvZ, I think he and Rogue, and maybe even Cyril are like the 3 biggest picks I have for beating him in ZVT.
Okay.
TvZ is not TY's best matchup, but it is Snute's. And he's definitely done his homework here.
It is, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, on that Terran shortlist from Korea, where, by the way, when we talk about Terrans, Korea is, and I know the stereotype, it goes out there. It's like, oh, Korean StarCraft, they're just amazing. Yes, but Korean Terrans in particular have always been something else. We've seen great Terran play outside of Korea, but it's been inconsistent. It's been a lot less of the great Terran players. It seems to pretty much come from Korea, and TY is on that short list of these players that has been innovative. I like to kind of mention that at the couch as well. But also just consistent. As he's been a pro gamer the last few years, there not really has been a year where TY disappeared. He's not crushing it year in, year out, but he's around, and he's a threat.
He started off very quietly, transitioning from Brood War to StarCraft 2, but he's been consistently getting better and better and scarier as years goes on, and he's never looked better. Now let's get into the game. Game number 1 here on Abyssal Reef. In the bottom right, this is Team Liquid Snute.
Oh, wow. The handsome devil himself.
And in the top left from Splice, this is TY. I like that they're rocking their WCS pictures as well. Wonderful artwork.
Cool Collector. We're going to start off on Abyssal Reef here. A pretty good kind of gridiron map, as I've been calling it for a while now, where the map does have 3, 4, even 5 bases kind of readily available to you for that slow, and I'm going to say it, mechy style. Now, on the flip side, as you said, Maynard, and I agree with this analysis, it's not like Snute isn't comfortable with that either. In fact, that's what Snute wants, and I loved the analysis that Todd was giving, kind of breaking it down, that a lot of forethought went into even the vetoes. A best of 3 is very short, so it makes it a little bit tough in a 7-map rotation if you're vetoing 4 between the two of you.
Yep.
It's a little bit hard to kind of narrow down exactly what's going to happen, but you will have an idea of a map or two that are the common grounds, and this is definitely one of them.
And Snute actually told me this morning that he is going to be going pool first, which we see here happening, by the way. Not super common for a Zerg to do that. Usually it's hatch first into pool, but he's going pool first here, and specifically it's so that he can avoid proxy play, which he knows that TY can do from time to time when he just feels like he's in a dominant position, or, you know, I can get in this guy's head and the game quickly, get a quick map score. But Snute's trying to avoid that, and also, you know, even if those lings, if there's no proxy to deal with, can get across the map and do damage to a low ground expand, which we're seeing here from TY.
Absolutely, but if you're hearing any hesitation in our voice, it is because it is not ideal. I will just come out and say that. If your opponent, if you knew your opponent was doing nothing early game, you would want to go hatch first. So this is not the biggest of deals. We're not talking about like a 5-drone deficit and Snute's really hurting himself, but I do have to say that's interesting. It's already, you can see how much these guys knew they were facing each other for quite a while now. They're preparing. But to say I'm going to go pool first every game because TY sometimes goes proxy, I'm gonna do the overbearing armchair quarterback foreigner thing, and I'm gonna say it's a little bit disappointing because that seems very defensive. That seems very precautionary.
Well, Snute just really wants that late game. He wants to go into that. You know, if TY does want to go mech, and he has been doing that a lot in TvZ, then you know, he wants that late game because that is what Snute is comfortable against. You see that the lings have been shepherded very well here by these Marines. It's not going to do any damage at all. So these, you know, he's only made 2 lings, but of course, like you mentioned, basically what it boils down to is that he's missing a few drones.
Yeah, it's not, you know, we're not going to spend too much time on it. It's not mega bad. It's just that if that is what he's going to do every game, you're hoping to catch a proxy, and in a best of 3, it very well could come to be that they never even see that happen. So those couple of drones become a little bit more of a big deal. But as the game's shaping up here, we do see TY was just sitting on the 2 Marines and is actually going to go pretty quickly up to those Hellions. Yeah. Probably for a drop, I would imagine.
Quite possibly. Could be a Hellion Banshee. No, it is going to be dropped. But I wouldn't be surprised with a Banshee follow-up after this. He's been doing it a lot in TvZ. So this, even though he's making Widow Mines and he's got Marines and Medivacs and that sort of thing, this could actually still be mech. He's been doing this weird opener where he'll get a lot of Hellions, go for a drop with Widow Mines and Marines, and then just drop an extra couple factories and go and make it happen. But
yeah,
Snute is making a lot of lings here.
It's a lot of lings.
Oh yeah.
He's not following up with more, so there's going to be drones behind that. It's good to see because, again, we did see that ramp is blocked off for a good part. It's walled in, so what these lings are going to hope to do is get in there, disrupt, get some damage in, and they even spot this medevac here, which is really nice information. But good move from TY. He's going to evacuate the natural, trying to minimize the losses. He's going to take losses.
Oh,
but
the door's down. The Hellion's finding a lovely position here between the structures, though. And the Lings don't get the service area they need. They are going to get a couple SCVs here before they go down, or even then, just the 1 and a Hellion. So not the greatest trade there for Snute.
No. Going up the ramp into the Hellions, perhaps where the error was. He was, you know, if that's 1 Hellion and there's nothing else up there, which is, of course, the best situation, then Snute's like looking at a win almost in that. So I get the gamble. Losing the Lings does not mean that he's just out of this game. He's going to have the Queens push back that medevac, which so far hasn't done any damage either. And Snute's pulling ahead a little bit in supply here. He's ahead in workers.
Starting to, yeah. I mean, he is the drone king himself, trying to make it happen here. TY going to try and see if he can barbecue a few of those drones and equalize things a little bit.
He fancies a Barbie.
Yeah, he fancies a Barbie. He's going to go walk about, see if he can find some drones to throw on the grill. And here he goes, straight up into the natural. Let's see what he can get done. Couple Queens already positioned, but that's not that much.
No, he's just going to get a couple of pokes there. Still seeing just a lot of Queens, and actually, interesting situation on the ramp there. I can't imagine that was ideal. He must have been controlling this right here. It's going to show up at the 3rd, just drop off a Widow Mine, a little bit of disruption play. Immediately a Spore Crawler goes down, and into the main that drop goes.
Yeah, auto turret harassment in the natural as well. Some hurt drones getting picked off very, very quickly. There's a nice connection. 8 drones going down so far from this Widowmine and Bio drop here from TY. And he drops double engineering bay, confirming that we are going to see Bio play from him as the game goes forward here.
Okay. So interesting. A little, that's not... We get excited about the mech play, but he also does a lot of bio play. It's not like this is something crazy or anything like that. So the drones are going to go back to work. Snute, and this is just so Snute. It's actually like kind of a famous almost meme in the European scene. Like, he will stand Queens, Lings, and some Banelings while droning up forever. And it looks weird because not really that many other players play this way. It's very uncomfortable. If you take a bad exchange, like 3 or 4 medevacs, 24+ Marines, if they get you at the wrong angle, you just lose from there.
Ooh, this Widowmine nearly connects with a good chunk of drones there. It just gets a couple, but still, that is damage. Snute's not at that comfortable 70 drone mark just yet. Lair on the way here, and I think that we're probably going to see Roaches out of Snute pretty shortly. He's getting +1 range and also armor, and he has been that Roach Ravager guy with, infestors and that sort of thing later on in the game. It's been so good for him, and there's that Roach Warren being dropped here by Snute.
Yep.
So it is going to be Roach Ravager. And he usually will marry this up into like a quicker hive. This kid loves his tier 3. He loves that late game like we mentioned a few times. TY, though, doing some good damage. Just chip damage here and there. No pullback from Snute. Oh, just in time there.
Yeah, lack of target focus there. Goes after one of the worst targets there. So some damage was done, but it's pretty minimal. And I have to say, like we've been talking about, Snute's style is such that it has to be a lot more than this I mean, Snute makes so much sacrifices to basically slow down his tech anyways, that if you're only killing a handful of drones, and that's kind of what he was planning for. So the game equals out here, and here's that double drop coming in, and TY is going to try and find purchase, but what I love about Snute's play, and you can see it here as well, a lot of top European Zergs do this, constant trickle of Lings, and I see more bio, I see your third timing, I see a lack of an army, so I assume there's a drop out there, and here we go.
Yeah, the army's coming in here, and not a whole lot of army supply for Snute, I gotta say. Most of this is Lings. There are Widowmines to help out these Marines as well. The Marines, thankfully, don't have Stim or 1-1 just yet, but the Widowmines do make things a little bit scary, but Snute dealing with them very, very nicely. Auto turret at the main, more drone damage being done here.
It's been this Raven, and it was all over the meta for a while, and it certainly is not gone from the meta, as we can see here clearly, but these Ravens have just racked up the kills. 6 on that one, a handful on the other one as well.
Yeah, doing very nice with these Ravens. Very, very hard for him to deal with his unit composition as well.
Yes.
Like the Queens can get it done, sure, but the Spore Crawler needs to be in position to be able to deal with those Widowmines. This can't always be all over the place to be able to defend against this. And TY with another double drop here. Double drops all over the place. Trying to go for the Evo Chambers. Denying an upgrade here would be pretty huge.
It's getting low in health, and it is going to be denied, and that is that +2 attack. And then the drop opened up over here. The Spore Crawler doing what it can to try and get these medevacs low in health and maybe stop them from continuing to come in here. But this is that damage we were looking for. Now the main base under siege as well.
Yeah, this drop play, this multi-prong harassment from TY has become not just chip damage, this is becoming very substantial here. As we see, the Terran is actually up on workers on the Zerg right now, which is devastating for the Zerg player. Drone kills still getting racked up. Look at how much lava that Snute's forced to spend here to replenish these numbers, making 12, 15 drones at a time.
And Snute is going to eventually overwhelm these attacks. A lot of damage has been done. He's behind in both. Well, it's actually a little bit ahead in army, but he's kind of equalizing in workers as well.
Yeah, big line of drones just came out of all that lava.
And that's that durable Snute style. So he did get slowed down here. Can he bounce back? Now, here's the big linchpin unit coming out for him. It's going to be those infestors. If they can land that massive fungal, this is his first time getting the unit that will be an answer to these drops. Going Roaches like this is really strong. Yeah. It poses an offensive threat to the Terran, but defensively it's a little bit tough. But he's still in this game, and if he can get those fungals, man, he can get right back on top of it.
And not only is he going to get the fungal bile combo, which is an extremely good comeback mechanic for Zerg, he's also going to start getting corruptors and probably get into broodlords later in the game as well, which are just not only a good choice but necessary when you get into the late game here. Marines finding a nice position here, shaving off a bunch of those creep tumors and also getting some damage on those queens as well. But Snute has more than enough army supply to push this back.
Yep. And this is starting to be something Snute can deal with. It's anytime I see a TY drop on the screen, I'm always like, okay, yeah, but where's the other one?
Yeah, there it is.
Here it is, and it's going to get a couple of hits here, but for the most part, that is one of those depleted medevacs that's been around for a little while, so it drops off 3 or 4 Marines,
but again,
doesn't do that much.
4 more drones, like Snute's worker count is 11 behind the Terran, as the Terran has a 4th base, but the 4th base is an orbital, which is a little strange.
He's maxed out, though. I mean, and to be fair, you don't really want 80 or 90 drones maxed out, so... Yeah. To your point, he's not going to bank a lot of money, so it's something Snute has to be aware of. He's going to want to trade out some forces and keep in mind, get up to like 70, 75.
Yep.
But he does have, he's got all the tools here.
Snute looks like he wants to throw a fight here. He does have +2 armor, but +2 attack not quite done yet. These Infestors just biding their time, banking up a bit of juice. And the Marines and the tanks actually bully him back there. There's that Great Aspire from Snute, so Corruptor and Broodlord. Whoa. Bit of blood and guts there. Couple more auto turrets, more harassment from TY. This Raven putting in work, man.
Absolutely.
And this one too, jeez.
They're keeping tabs on the tech. They're just doing such a good job. Weird angle here coming from Snute. Massive fungal, but not really the most amazing corrosive bile. And he's got his queens here getting back on creeps. They're a little bit more mobile. Interesting, TY actually pushed up there. It didn't cost him that much, but it's just not what I was expecting.
It's a bit of a choke point here. Oh, this is an uncharacteristic mistake from TY, nearly losing that Raven. Queen should be able to finish it off. It's very, very low. Looks like that Spore Crawler in the back natural finally got rid of that very pestering Raven from their very early game that's still been alive. Liberator's being thrown in now, but Snute knows all about that. He has Corruptors already on the way. And that's a nice fungal. Just a few Marines and Marauders there for TY. If anything, TY's happy to get that fungaled. Yeah. It's the big ball of bio that he wants to keep alive.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually kind of wondering if that was a bait from TY a little bit, but there is that Liberator's finding purchase, and there are Corruptors out here, but there's just so much going on that Snoot's falling apart a little bit. He's going to get that massive corrosive bile there, and there is the connection with the fungals as well. But behind this, now that worker count you were talking about, it's becoming a big deal.
Yeah, see, Snoot's winning fights in the front yard, but the backyard is in disarray. It's on fire. Everything's going horribly in the backyard. There is just Liberators taking out lava, drones going down, and now the front is being pushed as well. He has to use his very, you know, not really mobile, not really splittable army to deal on several fronts here.
To your point, he's almost got to just bring the army back and be like, all right, look, I'm going to get my 4 bases back on my side working for me, then slow push out from there with these Broodlords. But instead, he's going to go aggressive here, and he is going to be able to push back this force, but that's not how TY does stuff. Like, this army is almost just a distraction. It's all about the drops around the map, and up top, we can see a double medevac coming in here.
This multitask from TY is non-stop. He just is relentless. That medevac might go down, though, with full, with a full payload.
And this one will be deflected here. And these are the queens. You were asking about, like, where are they earlier? It's actually a very interesting playstyle from Snute. He'll actually pull all the queens with the army. The Broodlords are by themselves for the most part. A couple of... oh, my God. Is there anything here?
There are Infestors, but there's not too many fungals left on these.
Well, they pull up here. Infested Terrans do go forward, and the Ravager's going to back this up just in the nick of time. I mean, this core unit of Broodlords is the heart of his army. You take this out, a huge dynamic is lost.
Nice. I was going to say, the Corruptors aren't here with the Broodlords to deal with it, so thankfully the Biles got rid of that Viking. It would have been very annoying as time went forward. 3-3, nearly done for the Terran. And with the Terran being approaching max here, and with the Liberator count getting shaved through, and just the Viking count getting up there, it's going to be a little bit tougher for Snute as the game goes for a little bit longer, but he can recover. It's not over yet. He's down quite a bit in worker supply. TY is the kind of Terran that likes to have, 80 to 90 SCVs.
Which does mean smaller army. Keep that in mind. I mean, he is banking a little bit of money there. He's approaching 1,000. He has over 1,000 gas. And he's just constantly all over the place. So as long as you can stay on top of that, it's really good. You don't need the biggest of armies if you're dropping all the time. But when the game slows down and it's like 10 Broodlords, 10 Infestors, and it's really about that kind of thing, you're going to want to see TY trim back to like 50 SCVs, if not even less.
Yeah, and the creep spread from Snute's actually been, not a huge factor in this game. He's normally got such amazing creep spread. This Doom drop in the natural with a ton of units and 2 tanks even being unloaded here. Fungals go down, but no corrosive bile to help out there. A little bit of damage on the bio, not a whole lot of energy on these medevacs, but they are still going to do damage. And look at all these tanks here!
A lot of tanks.
So much firepower. Bye-bye, Queens.
And it's an interesting choice, too, because he knows he's facing Broodlords, but the tanks are so cool. But in this angle, it's such an annoying spot, and it opens up this fight over here. Unsupported, the Broodlords are going to be able to kind of push this back, at least for now. But once more bio rallies over to this, the damage, it was that army that Snute had amassed that was kind of giving him a leg in this game at all. Well, it just took a big hit.
It did. Looks like the natural hatchery may live if he gets through these tanks. He does. And it's very, very low and going to be a point of weakness in his play. TY
immediately loads up.
Yeah, he's going to load up and look to finish it off by the looks of things.
That's 7 tanks. It's more tanks than anything else.
He is making a ton of tanks, dude. Dropping a second armory as well to get double upgrades. Getting +2 attack for the tanks. And yeah, there it is.
Maybe TY's been playing too much StarCraft Remastered. Like, this is how TvZ goes there, where you open up bio and switch to mech. He's getting a lot of tanks out there, but I'm liking it. As long as the Broodlord count stays at what we're seeing, which is like 5 or 6, it doesn't get too high, then those tanks are really working for you. They're helping with the support units that give so much strength to those Broodlords.
Yeah, once again, the primary army of Snute is out of position for a big drop here. I don't see the natural living through this. He has Vipers out now, which is going to be fantastic on the front line. But here he goes into the back, and there is not much here in control.
No, and the tank's going to be so annoying back there. It's really the Broodlords are going to be able to disrupt this, or some Blinding Clouds from these Vipers. They're going to pull up over here.
Past the Blinding Cloud, yeah.
Does Blinding Cloud shut it down? Can he save it? It's actually going to be a little bit of a mystery off screen here as this Bioforce is pushing into the Broodlords. And they're fighting. The Corrosive Bile is going to try to land there, but well, the Blinding Clouds are good, but there's no sustaining force to do it, so they called back to the big army over there.
Just actually a really nice position on these tanks. They can start shelling down on the third and actually hurt the main as well. The front line, though, is going for Snoot's favor. He's doing all right at the front here.
Yeah.
The Broodlords are still alive, but he is taking so much damage. Once again, he's backyard in trouble.
And he's fallen off big time. For once, the supply differential here is actually very significant. It's not just workers, it's now army as well. He's 30 supply behind. Key structure starting to get targeted here, but there we're finally going to see it cleaned up. But at what cost? The natural, like you said, the backyard, all in disarray.
He used a lot of energy there to deal with that army, like a parasitic bomb and a couple blinding clouds on tanks that weren't sieged. TY has another base down here. He's obviously in a wonderful position here. Worlds ahead in pretty much every single way. Yeah.
He's got 7 bases being established right now. I mean, Snoot's heard legends of the other half of this map, but he's only heard of that. The best we saw was that kind of weird angled approach into the 5th base of the Terran from the high ground, and that was, like I said, that was eons ago. Now it's just about surviving, and Snoot's gameplay is going to be, look, I got to lock down my 5 bases, maybe think about a 6th and slow push to that, but he's just in so much trouble.
Catch the medevacs. There's a nice fungal. Going to get one of the full medevacs here, or mostly full medevacs, but they are still going to unload and be a bit of a thorn in his side. But meanwhile, in the north of the map, TY's main army is pushing in towards one of the most important bases for Snute here, where the Broodlords are as well. Vikings leading the charge. Here come the Vipers. What are they going to do? Die to bio by the looks of things.
Yeah, they're going to try to do what they can, but the Broodlord count never was able to grow. The base is under attack, so even as they defend, they're still losing comrades below. The base falls. And somehow Snute was able to swell back up to 170 supply, but it feels like it's a pretty gutless 170 supply. Like it's just out there on the map, but it doesn't have a whole lot of soul behind it.
I don't see if he gets back up here at this point. He's taking a ton of damage from this push at the front. And the Terran has so much left back at home. Snute hasn't been able to leave the creep.
Oh, great fungal. Corrosive Bile connection there as well, so he does destroy that. Another great fungal.
That's
okay, I mean, if you could do this forever,
medevacs, yeah.
That's
all the medevacs going down here. The tank's going down as well.
And he's still down to the supply.
Yeah, I mean, he takes a fantastic engagement there, but look at the worker count. It's 87 versus 18. There is not a whole lot of steam left in the tank here for Snute.
Yeah,
he needs to kind of end the game right now.
Zerg does not have mules. They don't have any kind of like, if you're down to 18 workers, those 18 workers are doing all the lifting for you. He has no bank. If he had like 5,000 minerals, it would be something. But he's going to push across. He can try to end it now. And even the Vikings landing, getting in on this action, shutting down that base. And the kind of rough style, by the way, of the Zerg's army is it's really strong, but it always takes losses. You're going to lose stuff. Stuff's going to die. And if you don't have money to replace it, well, you're on a clock.
These fungals are glorious, by the way, here from Snute. But he's fighting in a planetary. Planetary doing a ton of work here for TY. And as his reinforcements come down, I don't see Snute breaking him here. This is a... His planetary is taking damage. It's doing a ton. The fungals getting on those SCVs, helping him out a lot. But the tanks in the high ground are just shelling away at the Zerg army. And that's just too much. GG. And TY looked like he was strangling Snute with his boot in that game. The low-key MVP in that game was just denying that creep spread. And the...
Strangling in his boot, did you say?
Just like with his boot on his throat, you know.
Your level of pirate...
it's a pirate reference. That's what I was going
I've
for.
never even heard of strangling someone in their boot, but I'm just going to assume that you know what you're talking about. TY, I love the cut back to the camera. You immediately see Snute grab his his forehead and look pained.
Yeah.
We've seen that before, but TY, the shot of just the level of calmness over him is like, dude, this guy. He's 22 years old, but he's ascended somehow. He's like some kind of wizened monk.
I mean, these incredible Korean pro gamers that play every online tournament or try to play every online tournament while coming towards a tournament that's this important are just cold, calculated monsters. Like TY looked like he just played a ladder game.
He did, yeah.
And this is the biggest tournament of the year, and he just looked like he just beat a Zerg on ladder. No big deal.
Well, as predicted, every form of harass you can imagine, but you guys just saw the execution level of that. His money, he just continuously expanding outward, making it orbitals, as you pointed out, and on that 5th base, but the bases where they got attacked, it was a planetary every time, too. So it's just like he's not making a mistake. And it is tough to face that Terran style that's running an 80 or 85 SCV count because they're bringing in so much
Yeah.
money. But when you have the mechanics of TY and you're constantly harassing, microing these attacks, sure, a couple of fungals landed, a couple of full medevacs may have died, but most of everything else was doing damage. And most importantly, the early stuff. The 2 Ravens racked up like 20 kills between each other. It was amazing. Very well done.
And like you mentioned, there's a little bit of Brood War in there with like a transition to a ton of tanks.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he goes up that high-end worker count as a Terran player against Zerg is also a little bit Brood War. You know,
Yeah.
Generally, Terrans in StarCraft 2, they want, you know, maybe 60, high 60s, low 70s in the SCV count. TY's like, yeah, I'll get 90. No problem.
And one of the weaknesses of going mech, and he never went full mech here, but we saw a lot of Vikings, we saw a lot of tanks, is it kind of slows down the pace of the game. It's hard to keep it up, and that's where the Zerg can kind of get back into it. And then one bad fight, some blinding clouds, and you lose. But TY, I love this. And I know before people at home go crazy, I know what the tanks were for. They were for the Roaches, the Ravagers, and sure, some Infestors with some scans, and they worked great with the drops there as well. But I gotta highlight, a lot of times when a Terran sees, okay, there's Broodlords out, they don't think, I'm going to keep making tanks. They're like, yes, I know there's Roaches and Ravagers below those Broodlords, but it needs to be all-day Vikings and then enough bio to get past all of that. But the tanks really worked nicely with this. Again.
Yeah, they were the damage output, and they were certainly putting in work there, and the bio was kind of the meat shield there for TY. And we are getting into game number 2, and it is going to be on Interloper. In the top left here, this is Team Liquid Snute. And in the bottom right from Splice, winning game number 1, this is TY. Now, Interloper is very, very similar to Abyssal Reef, and I fully expect Snute to go for a similar game plan here. He's very, very confident in that style, but probably not very happy with his execution. So I actually would expect him to go for something very similar.
That's the perpetual state of Snute. His toughest critic is himself. And we love him for it. He's just been a workhorse in the scene since the beginning of his kind of emergence as a pro gamer. And it's served him well. He's one of the top earners, one of the best performers. And even this year at the WCS tournament, we saw him come close to winning. He was stopped by Knee, but who wasn't? And, you know, it's awesome to see him here. And this was, we were saying, this is probably a very tough matchup. I know there's some people close to him. You were talking about with Todd. He was confident. He's not out yet. It's a best of 3, of course. But I do have to say, like, TY, that video, I hope Snute didn't watch that before the match, because that was intimidating to me. I'm like, this guy's like, well, all I've got left is winning BlizzCon. Like, that's all I care about, and then maybe I'll retire, he says at 22. But he also says, after playing so much Brood War, so much StarCraft 2, it's not like he hasn't put in his time. He's an amazingly storied player.
And casually earning over $250,000 just in this year.
Yes.
Was it span of 3 months, I think.
I think it was Todd that said if he wins this, it's $600,000 a year.
He overtakes like MC and all the guys that have made the most money in the game.
Everyone.
Yeah. He becomes the earningest player in StarCraft 2 just in 1 year.
$600,000 is a very good year. That's an incredible year.
Yeah, a lot of people would agree with you. And there's that pull first. There's those first 2 lings here from Snute to try and see what he can get done in the low ground expand here of TY. But TY handled it so well in the early game of you know, on Abyssal Reef. I don't expect this game to go any different. Why would TY change what he did? Like his opening was crisp. It was strong.
Yeah.
He got damage done, and he was like, "Hey, I'll just do it again. Why not?"
I mean, yeah, Snute came across into his half of the map once that entire time. Lings are going to come in here and find similar stuff. They're not going to be able to get that SCV. They're going to be pushed back. Now, I don't mean to come at this from like I'm not hating on this. So Snute's played a million games to get ready for this, and if he says that he's comfortable here and this is what he wants to do, that's great. I'm just worried because let's say Snute wins this game, and he could be like, all right, look, I've seen the same thing twice. I'll mix it up. When is it most likely TY would do a proxy and do something crazy? It is in that 3rd game, and that's where Snute's going to have to double guess stuff. But Snute's a confident guy. I mean, mostly confident guy, especially in his builds. He'll probably just do the same thing. Like, if this was a best of 700, he'd probably do it every time, I guess. He just decided.
You know, he can be an emotional player, but when it's game time, he is going to do what he's most comfortable with and what he's practiced and what he's planned. They see that the 1-1-1 is shaping up here for TY. He's going for the Hellions to open up again. Great for map control, great for early game damage and defense against the Lings. And we'll see what he does from now. He's actually making a Cyclone here.
They're also, so that's where I was going to go with this. They're also really non-committal tech-wise. Like, you can open Hellion, follow up with a Banshee, follow up with a Raven, follow up with a Cyclone. You can go bio afterwards. You can go into Hellbats. Like, it's just, there's all kinds of things you can do with it. And Snoot's going to commit to this Ling attack here again. It's going to sync up with speed, but behind its drone, so don't look at this and think it's an all-in. It's not. But it's going to get similar results is what I'm worried about, Maynard.
Yeah, I want to see if TY makes more Cyclones or anything like that. And if he does, I wouldn't be surprised if Anamari gets dropped and he tries to go for that weird Gumiho style of mech. But we see that the Hellions are just so good against Lings here. They push away this little flood from Snute, and he's just going to use the one Cyclone with a few units to go for harassment here with that fast medevac, and then get that Liberator out.
I mean,
nice.
To my, by his comparison, of course, untrained eye, I look at this and it's just like, it feels like TY just makes stuff and throws it across the map and it works.
It looks like it. He's going down to the third where there's already 3 queens and a bunch of Lings, but Snoot's being very patient here. He knows that the Hellions are trying to use an opening.
Move.
Yeah, great read from Snute. Wraps around those Hellions, takes them out.
And deflects at the third. Goes up into the main. Well, guess what? There's just going to be more queens and Lings there as well. All of a sudden, I'm starting to like this. And this is interesting, too, because from TY, he has to know this is what Snute does every game. It's just the Queen Ling thing. I don't know that Marines and a Cyclone are anywhere near a good answer for that.
No, they're like, if you get into the drone line, then they get there. Then they get that damage done. But they didn't get anywhere near it. Snute made sure of that. Again, deflecting here, not even being able to kill those Overlords. I mean, the anti-air of the Cyclone is questionable at best, so
yeah,
takes a long time.
Yeah, that poor Cyclone's been through a lot, hasn't there? Was a time where if it sees anything in the air, it just shoots it down for free. Now, we did see a Liberator coming across the map, and it's going to be about position. There is a Queen there, of course. Got to get to work early. Its damage output not super high, so a couple of drones will die.
Yeah, a few are going to go down here. Looks like he's trying to drop a Spore outside of that Liberation Zone. The Queen getting to work, but he's just going to unsiege that and move along.
Wow.
But TY never attacks in one place at a time. He's running in those Aliens. That's actually a nice position here with the Lings not being able to surround. And again, this Medevac's still alive from TY. Oh, the Queen's going to die.
And the Queen actually dies. This base continues to be in trouble.
Boy. All the Lings died there as well, I think. The main is going to have to rely on these Queens to get the job done, and they can't transfuse each other. There's some of the Lings coming down here from the last battle.
Oh, he does get the medevac. Nice pick there.
That's a nice pick off there. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. The Liberator, of course, being removed from being in a harassing position as well, means that Snute can get up to the Roach Ravager again, as I kind of expected here, using the map to its advantage, or the way that he feels is most comfortable. And TY is going to go bio once more. I really expected TY to do a lot more mech in this series, but hey, it worked so well in game 1. Why mess with it?
Well, maybe that's the idea, right? I mean, that's what's so cool about this weekend is that all of these guys knew these groups, knew who they were playing first for a very long time, and they didn't get to BlizzCon by not being prepared. So it's a different attitude, because at a WCS tournament, you don't know who you're going to play against ahead of time. And for a lot of these Koreans, they're a little bit more familiar with that format, by the way. A lot of the GSLs and stuff like that. Next week you're facing so-and-so, so they prepare all week. Kind of it fits into their wheelhouse. Now, Snute, this is a significantly better start than the last game, which, by the way, wasn't the worst. I know that sounds kind of weird because he lost some stuff, but he was always there in supply. It didn't go perfectly or really well. This I would categorize as really well. He lost a couple of drones, but for the most part, he paid back that price to TY. Yeah,
he has like 11 more drones than he did in the last game at this point. Because TY did so much damage with the Raven and with the harassment. This medevac play could actually do a lot of damage here. No, Creep Spread hasn't made it to this hatchery just yet, and he's targeting it down. Lings are coming up with the Queens. There's no Baneling Nest or anything like that. He's going to probably forgo it completely as he goes into the Roaches. Hellions coming up into the natural, pulling up a few drones to body block them a little bit here, make it easier for the Roaches, and they do take them out.
Oh my god. That was not bad at all. He lost 4 drones. I mean,
for 4 Hellions. Good trade.
Oh boy. Now the Queens...
Yeah, they're a little.
They might have wandered a little bit too far. They have their children here in the vicinity, so they're going to back up. Might not be in time.
Oh yeah, a couple are going to die here, but those things. Transfusions go down. The bio. Oh wow,
not
the
bad.
Transfusions pretty good.
That's a pretty cool power.
Yeah, it's not bad. So the Queens do a great job here. In fact, Snute in general doing a great job in this game. And if he gets into this position, look at, he's got 12 active creep trimmers right now, and there's that fast high before 8 minutes it begins here. So this is comfort zone for Snute, and I'm feeling a lot better for him now. He has so many Queens. In fact, he's still producing Queens after all the harassment because he wants that creep spread.
So as the game kind of gets a little bit closer into Snute's comfort zone here, I begin to kind of look at the map and think of the dynamic here. We've seen these guys a little bit working on the rocks. Not as much TY, but this map is very congested with rocks. Mr. Browder out there somewhere, his spirit lives on and is true and strong. So the pathways between bases is a big deal. It's a bigger deal for Snute, I would say, because you'll notice that TY opts to drop a lot of his stuff and kind of speed around.
Yeah. Yeah, he just never seems to attack in one place at a time. And the Infestation Pit obviously is starting to pump out some of those Infestors to help out the Roaches and the Ravagers. Liberators being a real pain in the backside here for Snute. Liberators really being a backbone for a lot of TY's matchups. Well, actually for every single matchup these days. He's the Liberator guy.
Yeah, they don't fall off really in any of the matchups.
Really, no.
They're pretty good, generally speaking.
Ooh.
A couple of Ravagers getting picked off here. And again, this is just the TY special. It's just like anytime you're slightly out of position, it makes you look and feel so stupid because there's the double medevacs. But that's just what TY does. He's just hunting and seeking out those weak spots and trying to grab what he can. But Snute at that 63 drone count, and he hasn't lost the most, I don't think it's been. I think it's just been that he's been a little bit...
He's lost 8 in total, so...
That's not that many at all, to be honest.
In true TY fashion, he has an insanely huge amount of SCVs and a high base count already at this point in the game. I mean, the fact that Snute is going to sit back at home means that he knows this playstyle. He's going to be fine to just take CCs and make those SCVs for quite a while. Oh, this could be fungled and shut down very heavily here. There it is.
Oh my god.
Bam.
I love it. He misses all the Marines, but they load it up in the medevac and he nails that. It's all the same.
Yep. It's a nice pick off there for Snute. Would love to catch this one as well. The Infestors up already scanned. He sees him. He's pulling back though. Yeah, the tanks is...
God, tanks are not subtle.
No, they're...
When it was off screen and I was like, no, save him. But I was like, oh, it's Zerglings. Who cares? They can die.
Zergs always think they attack and this tank's like, hey! And then they just have to back off immediately.
That was always kind of my, like, the funny thing, when you get hit by a tank, it's visceral in game. You're like, oh, I need to get out from that. When you get hit by a Liberator, the animation for it's just so gentle and quiet and soft. You're like, well, that's not that bad, right? And then at 3 shots an Archon, you're like, whoa!
Infested Terrans and Fungals being dropped down here on the tank line. Snute coming in from both angles. Does he have enough, though?
Wow.
Oh, those biles were juicy. The bio reinforcements, though, are starting to win the battle a little bit here with the tank coming down as well. Liberators still doing damage to those Queens.
Yeah, off-screen he's kind of fighting into the Liberator, so I think he lost a couple of Queens there. And this is the tough part about this army comp I was talking about, where it can look really strong for the Zerg for a second, but those Roaches need to get up close. Ravagers don't tank that many shots. And Infestors, if you just look at them the wrong way, they'll implode. So it's an army that can be quite strong when controlled and in the exact perfect situation, but it can also just fold over.
Snute looks like he may win this engagement here. He is a bit of a choke point that makes things easier for TY with those tanks. And his hatchery is actually in a little bit of trouble here. He does pull back to the drone line and does deflect for now. And he did make that Spire in the back line as well, so there's that greater Spire beginning for him.
Did you see those SCVs? He was pulling up the front lines. Is he repairing? Let's see. No, it was a misclick. Okay, I was wondering about that.
So, wow, God's do bleed.
You know what this is? This is the Rocks. I was talking about this. He took 6 o'clock, and they are just, the SCVs are like, yep, sure, it's a 7-day journey, but we'll do it. We'll begin.
They'll get there eventually.
It's not that big of a deal, but it's just kind of silly to look at. Now, this is going to be that siege point, which is interesting.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. You cannot go through there.
No. Shall not pass. It's way too many.
No.
It's too much of a choke point. It's too much splash damage here. Snute's creep spread nearly at the natural front door here for TY. Back. Ooh, gets touched up a little bit by that Spore Crawler. Still lives to see another day.
And this is interesting. This is a little bit of a slower thing we're seeing from TY. There's still those harass elements kind of sharking around the outer perimeter here. You can see that, the Liberator. This one's coming up over here. I actually don't like it, I want to say. I think TY's position's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but this idea of, like, sieging this spot specifically and really slowing the game down, it's giving Snute more of a chance than I think after that big engagement earlier he deserved.
Oh my god, that Queen's just inside the Liberation Zone, goes down. Snute is going to clean this up very, very nicely here, and I love the amount, I just want to bring up the Spore Crawler count here in the back natural. He is not going to have a bar of this elevator play that TY is trying to go for in the natural here. The tanks are starting to slowly get rid of the Spore Crawlers. You can see the cogs turning in TY's mind. He's like, I want to ferry units in right here under tank fire, but Snute's like, I'm going to get my Spore Crawlers down, Broodlords are going to come out, and I'm going to shut this down.
And that's where it's going to go away. And he won't even kill this base, I don't think, as long as there's enough Fungals to hold off this wave of the attack. And there's the Broodlord. So, I don't know. Not to be I'm being overly critical of, like, one of the gods of StarCraft, by the way. So it's like, I'm trying to find something to talk about. He's like, I don't want to just spend 5 hours being like, TY's amazing.
Well, we could.
I don't like this decision.
You wouldn't be wrong. You wouldn't be wrong if you said it was amazing for 5 hours long. But it'd be an interesting cast to say the least. We have a bunch of these tanks here just covering the exit of the Terran units. A lot of the Roaches went down there, but it's kind of not about the Roaches anymore. He's going to go up in that tier 3. And nice hatchery pick off.
95 SCVs. That's too many.
Yeah, that's.
I found another thing, Maynard. I did it.
Yeah, it's just TY, man.
I don't like
he
it.
just loves those SCVs. Makes so many. And we can
this-
see that Snoot's just ready for like Infestor, Broodlord, maybe even Ultralisk. We see he's getting those melee upgrades as well, so that's kind of like ticking in his brain here.
Uh-oh. Look at the map. Here we go. Blue's clamping down on red. He was trying to buy time, was TY. He's trying to find, he did pick off one unsaturated base.
And these Broodlords are safe, dude. That Bio's not getting anywhere near them with the terrain here blocking his path. The Viking count's only starting to be worked on now here for TY.
Now here's the scary thing. Does Snute push through with this? Like, because that's the other thing Snute does sometimes too, where he's like, wow, this Terran looks like and feels like he's really trying to buy time. I'll give it to him. And that's a tough one to look at too.
Yeah, I mean, TY, the guys and ZG on the couch there bringing up the fact that TY is not afraid of that late game either.
Yeah.
And he is going to start that multiple-pronged harassment.
But it's about how you get into it. You know, he's making 3 Vikings at a time right now, 2 tanks at a time. He's going to stick with that composition, by the way, which is really cool and interesting. He is on 6 bases. So, again, I like TY's position. I'm not trying to sit here and be like he's about to die, but this is nowhere near as good as last game, where I feel like Snute, this game, to be bold, I think it's in Snute's control. It's up to him whether or not he's able to win from here. In my opinion, I'm willing to accept that might be wrong.
He's certainly wearing the big boy pants in this game right now. It's hard to argue otherwise. Marine's going to trade very nicely with these Corruptors. The Corruptors get too far forward. Roaches and Ravage coming through. The tank count's still very scary, but that Bile is connecting with a couple at a time. Does shave through it.
There's a bunch of the Queens, which are... So what their role is right now is to keep the Broodlords alive. So a Broodlord can get focused down. Oh, this is too much.
Lovely pick off there for TY. He's gotten a couple hatcheries here, and Drone's going to go down as well.
This is the same drop from top right. He picked off top right and this.
Losing Corruptors actually really sucks for Snute as well. And there's the Fungals, and it does get cleaned up. Has to retake that hatchery. He has to retake that hatchery. It's just not really a choice that he has in this game. Like, his army supply is fantastic. He's clearing up into tier 3. The Broodlord count getting higher and higher. Infestor count getting higher and higher. He only has 3 at the moment, so he kind of needs to do that.
Look at TY. He's maxed.
Yeah.
He has 112 supply army.
And look at his bank.
Yeah. Look at the bank. Oh, the Fungals, please.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, baby.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, quite nice Fungals there, and the Roaches and Ravages doing a good job as well. That's another lovely Fungal here on the far right, and these tanks should be cleaned up here by Snute.
But the Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings are clearing the Broodlords, and that's a much more important pickoff.
And not to be too much of I told you so, but go back to like the 6 Queens that went down almost for free. But he's going to push through here, and the Whisperings of Maynard, that's an orbital. There's no planetary here. So that staying force is a little bit hurt. A couple of Infestors may have waddled their way a little bit too far forward. But Snute, you got to sustain. It's mostly Marines here, a couple of wounded medevacs and some Vikings. Push forward, young man. But he won't.
So patient. Just retaking his drones, retaking his hatcheries, getting chitinous now, and it's going to be Ultra O'Clock very shortly here for Snute.
Ultra O'Clock.
Yeah.
You guys. These dank memes so early in this BlizzCon. I can't even.
You got to start early. You got to start the day strong.
All right. Well, he's pushing back Creep, trying to take that base, so he will be bought some time there from this fantastic, by the way, Creep spread from Snute. We haven't mentioned that. He's got good creep spread, he always has, but he's not particularly known for it, I guess. Like a Scarlet, perhaps.
Well, when he had that point count.
But there it is! Yo, and TY! Whoa!
Oh, I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. The Fungals are going down. A bit of a concave with the Bio on the left. The Queens are helping out here. The Roaches and Ravages continue to do damage. The Corruptors in the sky looking for those medevacs and for those Vikings. They do an all right job. But Snute is going to win this engagement in the end.
Is he, though?
Oh, the tanks.
Supply
I feel
equalizes?
I feel like he could have beaten those tanks, but yeah, I mean,
all right.
TY just, he just has the skills to pay the bills, man, in the bank to make it happen as well.
It's interesting. The army that Snute's going for is, in my opinion, hoping to kind of trade out and get to 10, 12 Broodlords and still have similar elements on the ground, but less of it. Because every time we see this fight, the Ravagers, the Roaches, like Snute goes in 40 supply ahead and comes out equal or behind. And it's not because he's making huge mistakes, it's that his army is getting blasted by tanks.
Yeah, it's not supply efficient because of the Roach count. We have the Ultras getting on the way here. That hatchery is getting targeted down. Please kill these Marauders. Oh, God. The hatchery gets taken out.
Man.
So does 16, 17, and counting drones here. Ugh.
TY looks like a chore to play against. An absolute chore.
Imagine playing this guy every day on ladder. Every time you log on, it would just be excruciating.
If I was a time traveler, I would take a time where I would take like the best Artosis ever and have him play a TY but not know it's a TY. The frustration you'd hear from Dan would be liquid gold. It'd be so fun to listen to.
It'd be delicious.
That fungal! Do it!
Do it! Catch these medevacs. Doesn't catch him though.
No.
Gets out from the creep spread.
And the tanks.
Yeah, they are putting in work, and TY sees the Ultras, and he's like, all right, I gotta get the Liberators out. Need to start mixing and matching here.
Okay, now Snute has, again, that super army. So dealing with the tanks, Ultras can do it, and they can push forward. They need some Infestor support. There's 3 Infestors behind that.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of army that all of a sudden, all the stuff that TY has been doing could very much so struggle against. He's still been making mostly Marines.
There's a few Brutal Lords live as well, but I don't think for long the Viking count is still quite nice. And TY, ooh, he's getting Ghosts as well as Liberators?
Yep.
He doesn't want to mess around with these Ultras, that's for damn sure.
He wants to lock this up and have a match against Mr. Special to decide who's going to be advancing to that arena.
He certainly wants to close this out in 2-0. Snute not out of it yet, though, still with a very scary Tier 3 army. It's just so hard for him to, with this army, it's so hard to lock down the, you know, the multiple prong harassment of TY. He's been doing it again and again.
You still need Corruptors. I feel like you need to leave supply and money for that, but he doesn't.
Especially now, to protect the Ultralisks, you especially need them now against the Liberators.
Yeah.
Which are kind of like, I mean, with the Ghosts as well, the number 1 threat.
As you say that, there's 4 being queued up here, so that is the evolution of TY. He says, okay, Ultras, sure. Give me a couple of minutes, I'll have 12 Liberators and Ghosts.
Oh my god, imagine it's just going to have Mass Liberator and Ghost. How do you beat that?
I don't have to imagine, it's here.
It's happening.
It's real.
10 Ghosts. That's so many Ghosts here for TY, a lot of gas. If the Ghosts all get fungled and the you know, the Liberators get picked off and they're not in position, then I can absolutely see Snute winning this game. In fact, this Link is actually doing a very good job here in the north.
Oh my god, he EMP'd all the Infestors.
Yeah, nicely done.
Beautiful move. And they're underground all the time, so you have to scan for that. You have to know where they are and then land it, and he did it. Devastating. Snute's got to be grabbing multiple foreheads right now, and because this game was going so much better for him, but it just got chaotic again. And Snute makes a living off of not letting this happen. You know, this is what he does.
Yeah, he's the guy that's locked things down, getting to the late game, and just continues to crush and chokehold his opponent. But TY is the guy doing that to Snute here.
He's not completely out of it yet. A couple of fungals, some Ultras surrounding all the Ghosts. It can happen.
Yeah, with this army composition, you can absolutely just take a great fight, but that kind of relies on TY to make a big mistake or to overextend, which he's not actually done yet. Like,
in his life.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, he doesn't know what that looks like, but denying these bases would be a good start. The creep is going to spot this base being landed again, and that is an orbital, in the words of Maynard, and he is going to be able to perhaps pick off this base. Ultras do that fairly well. They're going to jump in here on the circle, and that's a dead base.
Yeah, Planetary as well, getting taken out. TY not even going to try and repair that. He knows he can't out-repair. All those fungals going down here, mostly on Queens. The Infestors are still at the back.
This could be great for Snute.
Yeah, this could be a nice fight. The Infestors and the Brutal are still taking their time here.
And the Spore Crawler wall here means that Liberators can't really help out. The Ultras have cleaved through the economy.
Wow.
He's kind of roping it back. All of a sudden, a 50 supply advantage for Snute.
All of a sudden, somehow, TY lost 70-something SCV. He's on 24 now.
Oh, my God. Well, he needed the 90 then, huh?
Yeah, he needed that 90.
Like, the way I lose them, I need that many.
He's like, I know that at a 20-minute mark, I'm going to lose 60 SCVs.
Look at Snute, though. He's not without... He's got a giving spirit. So he noticed that those rocks were not knocked down on TY's half the map. He says, let me do that for you. Let me open this path.
Small contingent of bio forces heading forward here, but they're not going to get too much done. In fact, the Fungal's going to get rid of one of these medevacs.
Oh, the Ghost! For God's sakes, the Fungal could have...
Oh, there's the Fungal!
Oh, my God!
That's what he wants!
But there's no follow-up.
No, he doesn't have the biles. He can't finish it off.
Next time we'll get just as excited, though. I promise you.
I promise. I've got the boy. I can do it one more time, I think. He just needs to get that Fungal one more time. But the Ghosts, obviously, if they have that snipe ability, it gets interrupted by Fungals. It's pretty huge here. The Ultra's leading the charge. Ghost coming back to snipe them down, though. And we'll get rid of the Ultralists. There we go.
Yep, is able to do that just now. The Ultra hit crew finally does win some space for these Lings. Just be annoying, and this is where all of a sudden Snute's like, how do you like it? But the problem is there's really only one base for TY to defend. Actually, he's got that pocket one on the inside as well, I guess. But the Brutal count, so their techs are switching back and forth. Liberator's not great at dealing with Broodlords, especially when they're backed by Corruptors.
Yeah, a little bit of rock, paper, scissors play from both players, identifying the composition and adjusting theirs to deal with it. The Lings with Adrenal putting on some hurt here. There's a big push from TY, but another massive fungal here from Snute. And the Liberators now are very, very scary. His corrupt count not too high. In fact, most of them are Broodlords.
Yeah, Vikings finding a right side weak flank over there. Then the Queens try to step up and help, but there's not a lot of support. If you notice, there's no Ravagers. There's just the one Ultra. The support units of Snute are non-existent, and again the supply switches in favor of TY.
Yeah, TY and Snute both with not much of an economy, but TY with the army right now. This is going to be very, very tough for Snute to beat.
Yep, and we're going to push forward into here, and all of a sudden TY with his scans is like, wait a second, I'm not seeing any Infestors. I can kind of just push through this. He's got to deal with that Ultra that's somehow still at full health. It's going to back away.
And every time he snipes, he does so much damage to these really expensive, incredibly important Tier 3 units. The Broodlords and the Ultras getting lower and lower in count here. Snute trying to make just a big flood of Lings, but I don't know if it's enough. The bio here could trade very well. It's just 3-3. It's got the ability to stim and all that sort of goodness. So
yeah, he's just now getting +2 melee attack, and these are definitely 3-3 bio units, so that's actually where this really falls off and is tough. If you're not upgrading that all game long, you need +3 attack. Like, +2 is going to finish here in a second, but you're going to feel it. The Lings feel like they take an hour to deal with anything.
The Ghost getting some more damage there. Another Broodlord goes down. This Hatchery getting very, very low. A Fungal going down here for Snute. These Fungals need to be very critical for him if he wants to stay alive in this game. TY gets that Hatchery, and the bad economy from Snute goes to worse here.
Yeah. Snute did take bottom left. He is going to get those Lings in on that
Great
base.
Run by.
So this is what he's got to do. He's got to get kind of guerrilla on this and start looking for the little hit. The hit when you're not looking type of stuff backs away. The army, however, of TY is scary. Supply-wise, it's again, just about 113 there. So it's not the most massive army. It's just that it packs the tools for everything. I don't see Snute pulling a tech out where TY is like, oh no, I hadn't accounted for that. 5 Infestors queued up. That is, you know, that's the thing. The Infestors, like, it's not like there's not answer support. Ghosts are great. Any scan and bio, of course, can do it. But Infestors represent that ability to be like, wow, he did, you know, he made a mistake, boom, the fungal hits everything, and they all die.
I'd love to see the unit count because neither player has a bank right now. Like, if he's killed a lot of these ghosts, it's going to be very tough for TY to replenish it. And for Snute, with all these spellcaster units, can continue to keep doing work here.
And he does get one of the medevacs here, and the units are going to come over and try.
Only 4 ghosts remaining.
Okay. Not so many. Bottom left is found, but it's got enough Lings here to defend it, of course.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Hail Mary hatchery here in the bottom left. TY, now that he knows all about it, it's going to not be too difficult for him to deal with. Snute's army is in position, at least, for Snute. That's good news.
Yeah. Man, all the Spore Callers just making their migration down there. It is that time of year. They do that.
Yeah, moving south for the winter.
Yeah.
The bio here just pushing on the creep spread here of Snute. Ghost Academy being chewed on by these Lings. Should be able to clean that up, and he's finally able to afford some more Corruptors and Ultras as well. But, this actually hurts a lot. Losing more drones here.
And bottom left. Bottom left is under attack right now. And I don't know what happened. I guess the army got pulled up to 9 o'clock, excuse me, to deal with it. Well, that's a dead base. And TY, he's everywhere. I mean, you notice that, like, the attack hits exactly at the right time at 9 o'clock to pull the army. It still kills all the drones, and he loses bottom left.
Now, TY is primarily making Marines because he doesn't really have the ability to make too much else. He's trying to get Cloak now for those Ghosts, but he only has 4 left. Oh, that actually might burn down before Cloak finishes. But anyway, so he is going to try and use his Ghosts to the best of his ability. It's all about spellcaster units in these low econ situations. They bank up energy. They can do damage.
Yeah. And just, it's a thing of beauty to watch TY here. Snute's played great. He's got his back up against the wall right now, but just TY. Like, the time he slowed down was to switch to Liberators to respond to the Ultras. The Ultras do a lot of damage, but TY is not sitting idly and not knowing what to do. He's taking out bases as well, and here's the big fight.
Big Fungal and all the Infestors. They all got EMP'd there. And he actually also abducted one of those Ghosts. The Marines putting in work at the front line. The Ultra doing a fantastic job with the Queens transfusing it as well. And like I said, that's primarily Marines in control, and the Ultras don't care about Marines.
Yep, he's going to be able to kite backwards, though, and he can't transfuse over here, so he's just kind of weathering down that single Ultra, just trying to corral that monster. And he does have a couple of Broodlords. He's fallen back in supply, but this army is a very specific one, and with a lot of Queens below it. Is there Vikings? I don't think so, right?
No, there's actually only Liberators.
It's getting a little bit ugly here.
Yeah, it's getting dicey. This one's getting scrappy. It's getting dirty. We're fighting barefisted in the mud here between these two guys.
Ooh. Talk to me about it.
Yeah.
And then I think those are the Broodlords getting picked off.
Yep, that's pretty huge.
Okay,
That's
never mind.
pretty
It was
huge.
scrappy and barefisted in the mud. Now it's like a
Well, Snoot's got an arm missing.
it's like a wading pool. It's like a very pristine, clean wading pool. Everyone sees everything that's happening.
Yeah, they threw a filter in there.
It's like a single Ravager with 4 health over there. This has been a bloody game.
TY remembering he has 6 Liberators up here trying to defend that base from run-bys. They're going to help out quite a bit here once he gets to the gets back on the aggressive side. He does need to start pushing the Zerg back and take another good fight here to solidify this win, but he is, of course, pretty far ahead at this point, primarily because of his army just being so beefy.
This has been happening. Good on Snute, too. Like, the second the Liberators left, he's like, all right, I'm in. This is in a ladder game is where you call him a hacker, by the way. That's that moment right there.
Yeah. Well, he's just he's doing a good job here with harassment. He's also, you know, buying time for himself, which is nice, because he's trying to get his hatcheries back up. And just trying to use, like, long-range spellcasting abilities to get it done.
Oh,
Cloaks from the Ghost and the Impies on the Infestors again! Beautiful from TY. Loses 2 Ghosts, but the Infestors are taken out of the equation, and they are basically the backbone of this army for Snute here. Scans and takes them out as well.
And TY knows that without the Infestors, you just have to fight me now. There's nothing for me to be afraid.
It's too much.
Gonna stem forward, spread the concave. Space doesn't mean anything other than that army there, which is everything for Snute. And Snute, you got nowhere to go. TY has cornered you, and it is time.
He's making what he can. He's just getting as many lings out as he can, but TY, make no mistake, is pushing the end of this game here. Snute taking a back fight, and there